Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to recap the daily plan that I shared on StockTwits as well as the live market commentary, rather, I provided through there. My StockTwits you can see here, ChocolateLabTrading. I'll leave a link in the description. So let's look at what I was looking at this morning. And I started off with the TPO. I said, creating a daily plan, step 1, checking in on the TPO. What can we take from here? What do we see above, below? Lots of warnings already. Important stuff, folks, we'll cover in the video recap. So let me pull up the screenshot so we could better see this together. All right. So what can we take from this TPO? If you guys have been following along the past week and a half, maybe 2 weeks now at this point, I've been talking about last week's balance zone. We accepted value into it, as I warned a few days ago. Surely enough, we got a test of the low of the balance zone over here, which provided a great long yesterday. So now, coming into this session, we were looking at the Globex, and what did we see? We were outside of the balance zone. So what does that mean? If one of two things. Either we're going to continue down, clean up market structure below, find a new balance area, or we're going to come back at open, test the bottom of the balance area, and that will kind of dictate what's going to happen in the session, rather. Let's see, what else can we take from here? We're building value lower, but not too telling. We cleaned some structure. But yeah, we did have excess on the top, testing the bottom of yesterday, so we can see that sellers are strongly in control. Even during the overnight session, we could not trade into yesterday's cash session's price action. All right, what's next on creating a daily plan? Step 2, zooming out to our daily frame. Where do we see market participants' positions? Who is underwater? Do we have support below? Do we have resistance above? All important to know, guys. We'll cover in video recap later. So you should be able to see this fine. This is, of course, a daily chart of the footprint, so we can see all of the transacted volume. And look at the past few days. I have it circled, obviously, already. Lots of volume underwater. And what do we see below? Not much. So we're going to have to go to our TPO charts and back in time in our footprint charts to kind of see where price is likely to give us a either temporary reversal or a reversal. Yep, if you're interested in learning TPO, learning footprints, how to read the order flow and everything, I've been also mentioning Room is opening. It should be October 1st. My email's in the description. Just shoot me an email and I'll reserve you a spot. But here is my daily plan. So I said, due to the current market structure, we're trading out of balance. I asked that unless you're a wizard on the tape, reading the order flow, reading the footprint, don't trade today. This is my personal plan, going to be extra cautious on the buy side. On top of this, I believe today was quad witching as well. Pretty self-explanatory what I was looking at. And this buy zone right here ended up being, at least as of now, it is 1:45 market time. This was the low of day and provided a picture perfect entry, which I'll show you guys on the tape. Just want to say thank you to everyone who subscribed. Has been subscribing. I hit 90 subscribers this morning, although most of you are not subscribed, so if you could, that would mean a lot. Alright. So this was right after open. I said signs that I missed a few words, but I meant to say signs that bulls are trying, or no, signs trying to be shown on the daily. I don't know what I was trying to say there, but signs are trying to be shown on the daily. Keep an eye on it. We'll go over this in daily recap. So, what signs am I talking about? Let me pull up the screenshot so we could see that better. Alright, what signs is the daily trying to show us? We're looking at the volume distribution of the day. We could see that a B shape is trying to come. That's why I said signs are there, but they're not. They're not there. They're trying. That's all I was trying to point your eyes to keep an eye on these volume nodes. If you watch yesterday's recap, I'm almost certain I mentioned it there. What we love to see, what always provides the cleanest entries is, in this example, we're looking to long down here. What do we want to see? We want to see people trying to long over here. We want to see people trying to front run this because that means market makers will likely stop them out, provide one last wick down, and that's where we get filled with the market makers and go long. So what is next? That was at 9:33, and I just wanted to add in here that I forgot to add 39.05 to 10 could be a potential sell zone. I think I said cautious sell zone, and that's just because we had this gap down that could provide either quick scalp, or if the tape's saying so, the move down. 4 hour looking pretty, not so much on daily. Possible stop run, then go. So let me pull that up too. Got it right here. So as I was just talking about B-shape profiles, we can see clear B-shapes on this profile and not as clean, but here again. Oh, I didn't even zoom this in. What am I doing? One thing to note here, you could see that this is a 4 hour, but my 4 hour, I messed up my session times of when the 4 hour opens. I ended up fixing it towards the end of the day. I didn't realize, but nonetheless, you could see that we have some exhaustion, have a bid down here, and what I was talking about, possible stop run, was, well, a stop run, exactly what I was talking about before, into our area so that we could go long. All right, so now we're looking at the daily. Before, we didn't have this bottom volume node on the daily. Should I pull this up? Hopefully you guys can see that. We didn't have this bottom volume node on the daily, so we kind of had a flat bottom, meaning that if our bottom volume node has a lot of transacted contracts, in this case because it's futures, we're likely to go down because the auction isn't done yet. There's still people willing to transact here. We have to exhaust before we can reverse. Stops taken slightly. We had a little dip below, as you could see by this, but we kind of want to see better exhaustion, but definitely start keeping an eye because sometimes the levels are front ran, so you have to be quick on the tape. All right. Yeah, I'll pull this one up. I said watch your delta here to see who is winning. Big move coming. We'll go over for you guys later. So this is what we so often see in the footprint, whether we're on a daily footprint like this or on a 5-minute or 1 minute, 10-minute, 30, it doesn't matter. We will see buyers and sellers. They'll be far apart in volume nodes and they'll work their way next to each other, and we will see ping-ponging in between these volume nodes, and that's where we use our tools of delta, other tools that I will talk about in obviously the room, but there's a lot of telltales to see who's winning this battle back and forth. So in this case, when we're looking for a long, we want to see buyers adding to their delta, building out volume nodes, filling in balances, all this stuff, so we could get what we want of stop run and go. What time in the day are we at now? 9:53. So now initial 30 minutes closed, and here we go. Bang, exhaustion into buy zone given before open, and exactly what we're looking for, a quick dip down into it and start to pop up. So yep. Let me actually point out here. You could see once this opens up, the bottom volume node that we're looking at on the daily before that had about 4,000 contracts transacted there now has 26,000, and now we have another volume node on the bottom with 4,000. So what does this mean to us on the daily? Let me try to get my pen back. There we are. See, we obviously have 70,000 contracts, almost 80, 25s, and 20s, and then a 4,000. See how it's getting little, or we have big numbers, still big numbers, but much smaller than above, and then small numbers. This is what exhaustion looks like on the footprint, on the tape. So this is telling us that this down move, at least temporarily, is exhausted. Now, how do we know whether it's going to be temporary or, I don't want to say permanent, obviously, because eventually it'll be broken, but provide a much better trade? Is a few things. First is context. So this is a level that using the tools that I do, I was able to get. So that's one thing. And another thing is going to be on the way up. How are these volume nodes building? How is the delta? Are buyers moving up? We could zoom into smaller time frames, like a 5-minute. And what we should see on the footprint when these volume nodes build out on the 5 is a bid. We should see a bid moving up on the tape. And that tells us buyers are in control and sellers cannot move down this offer on our smaller time frames. So that was at 10:02. I probably entered, I would assume, at like 10 on the dot, maybe 10:01. And I said, see how clean the exhaustion into the buy zone is on smaller time frames. Okay, perfect. So what do we have here? We have a 5-minute. I've just become accustomed to using 5 minutes. I usually would use a 10-minute as my smaller time frame, but I've becoming, as I said, I like the 5-minute again. I used to use it a long time ago. But here's our exhaustion on the smaller time frame, obviously. And then as we're pulling up, we get a buying imbalance. Sellers are trying to low slam, and they got popped. So as soon as I see this exhaustion, why do I know it's exhaustion? Look at how many contracts are being done here, and we're thinning out the tape a lot. We're building out or printing new volume nodes. And as soon as we start to pull up, get that buying imbalance, I had my limit order already set. I just had my finger on my mouse ready to actually place it, and I entered right on the midline of my zone. But yeah, I'll talk about more executions in the room. But even so, say you were patient, you wanted to wait. Look at the next candle. We open, dip into the zone. Look at that, zero print. It doesn't get more exhaustive than zero print. No contracts are able to be transacted right there. So we're exhausted, and hence the move up. And even more telling, sorry, but if you look in here, look how thin the volume is right here. No transactions, but in the previous 5-minute, look how many contracts are being transacted there. That's telling us that no one is willing to do business here. So what's going to happen? We have to visit spots of liquidity. Where's there going to be liquidity? Well, we know there's sellers here. So as soon as we pop above them, that's where the volume comes in. Everyone who is shorting over here and previous 5-minute candles are now getting stopped, and that's what gives us the fuel for continuation of our long. Things like this we could spot in the footprint and gives us the confidence to either hold the trade or maybe take a little bit off, and we use this to trail our position. All right, 75% of remaining position off at 20 points, trailing a small amount now. Look how clean the exhaustion was, guys. Picture perfect. So I'm going to bring up, this is a 30-minute chart. 1 second. So I didn't enter off the exhaustion from the 5-minute. I did definitely keep an eye on it, but what really gave me the confidence was here on the 30-minute. I believe it is much cleaner, at least to me. Complete exhaustion at the lows, pulling up, double buying imbalance. This wasn't a double buying imbalance when I entered. We just had this one, but 0, 7, very small numbers, and 1,000, 2,000 contracts being transacted. We are exhausted. And just to drive the point home further, look at how many contracts are transacted over here. Tons, 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 and complete exhaustion. If you were patient, you could have even taken it here. We closed above the zone. That's good. It's being respected, and we have some signs of exhaustion here too. So I guess I entered at 9:30 actually, or in the 9:30 opening candle. So 1 second, what was I looking at the 5-minute then? Why was that 9:55? Oh, because it was right before the opening candle closed. I can't believe I... Okay, yeah, sorry. Um, Notice how sellers are trying to move down. We could clearly see buyers and sellers positions using the footprint. So, here we go again. So again, 30-minute candle. What do we have? We have a clear zone where buyers are trying to hold. We know this because we have a bid. The bid is trying to move up, and we have active sellers with them trying to move down. Now, some things that we should see that gives us confidence in our long position is a few things. We definitely have more volume towards the downside, and once we peaked above, look at how many shares are transacted to the top side. We don't see exhaustion yet. So we should have confidence that when we come down and backfill this volume gap that we have here, that buyers should step up and move the bid up. And you'll see that, as I said, more clear on the smaller time frames. And that's where I don't know if it was here, but I'll show. I did take an ad using these smaller time frames because we had to backfill some volume. So the sellers who are trying right here, we see now that they got steamrolled. They did not add enough. This trade is looking really good. Next target is 3,800, 92 and a half. I don't remember if we hit that. Let's see. All right. Temporary exhaustion, as can be seen on the 30. Now we want to backfill and add for next leg up. What a trade and what an entry. All right. So what am I talking about? This backfill nonsense. We have 30-minute chart here, obviously, and look how thick the volume nodes are on top and on bottom. What do we have towards the middle? Low volume nodes. Not super low, but low. More clear on the smaller time frames. So what we're going to want to see is price pullback, fill it, buyers add, gives us confidence. Once we see them adding on the tape, we could then add with them. Lots of tips and tricks on the 30-minute, or on the footprint rather. And what can we see from daily? Again, we pointed out already the complete exhaustion, double buying imbalance, and we're starting to pull above the majority, or the two biggest volume nodes. So what happens if we start getting higher above this? All these guys are going to have to stop out. What do we have next? And this is where I took an ad at 71 with the backfill. I told you guys about before it happened. Took 50% off of what I added at 10 points. I've said many times my first target price is always 10 points unless I know that I'm going for a scalp. But on probably 95% of my trades is always 10 points. New stop, I moved it up, so my average I believe was 55, and now I moved it to 60. Still waiting for next target, as I mentioned. So let's look at this backfill. I'll pull up the picture. Let's see what I was looking at for my ad. So, of course, I wasn't basing it just off volume gaps that we needed to backfill. I was also keeping an eye on the TPO and larger time frame footprint. But I use the smaller time frames for my entries most of the time. And ads because we could kind of zoom in on the tape and see what we should see. So this candle, this 10:10 candle closed, again, this is a 5-minute, closed up here. What's below? Volume gaps. Here we can see volume gap, and we have some higher volume areas. When we close down here, we could consider this area, as we could see it traded in this candle, kind of filled already. What do we have to fill? Over here. So what I want to see as someone who's looking to add is a pullback, fill this volume gap, buying imbalance on the tape, and adding to the delta. Looking at the volume nodes and a few other things, but that's what I'm looking for. And sure enough, we got it, and it provided a great ad for the trade. Okay, so as we started pulling up, I said do not ignore these sellers, guys. They still have work to do, but they're doing a good job. I won't pull up the full picture for this because I'm just I'm trying to point out this volume node. No huge selling balance, no exhaustion on the top. but nonetheless, you can see on the tape that sellers are active and they're trying. So you got to keep an eye. Sellers trying, but they are not convincing yet. You see what I see up top? It is telling. We'll cover this in recap. So I actually just touched on this, but it's even more prominent here, is no exhaustion at the highs. We have so many contracts transacted up top. Auction's not done to the top side. And then I asked, did you see it? The top node told you we would run more stops. Yep, I just quoted that, but that's exactly what happened. We ran those stops because the auction told us to. All right, we are seeing what we want to see on the TPO. Do you see it? Crucial info. If you want to take trading seriously, don't worry about a pullback. We need to backfill some. So let's see if we get another ad. And I said, let's see if we get another ad. I will probably not take it though. I like my average, want to keep it. So what are we looking at now? What we're looking for on our even a clean candlestick chart on our footprint and TPO, we want all of our tools to build confluence, because more confluence, less risk, and that's all trading is, taking the trades with the least amount of risk and having the discipline to do so. So what were we looking for? We wanted balance to, or not balance, I'm sorry, we wanted to see price accept into yesterday's value. If we accept into yesterday's value, we could see at the very least here, and that's exactly what happened. And that ended up being the high day too. So we accepted into yesterday's value, came, tested the point of control, and the auction said that price was not at a fair value if we went above it, so we got to go down. Excess on the top, of course, so all signs to cut the short there. I was already down to a smaller position, so I was willing to wait and see that if maybe buyers could add, we could get another leg up. But if you want to be more protective of your profits, it did give you all the signs to exit there. If I was holding on to a larger position size, I either would have cut the trade or at least taken off a majority there because the signs were there. So next thing, I said, see, this is why I was not going to add again with the backfill. These are techniques I'll share with members. Stop should be in place. You should be paid. Who cares what happens now? And look at the volume, looking to be backfilled, and sure enough, this time it wasn't respected, even though we had big moving averages here. And just as I said, there's a few techniques that we could use to help identify when we should and should not add to our positions. Watch this volume node. We have exhaustion at the high, sellers trying to work their way down on the tape. So sure enough, we came into yesterday's POC and got some exhaustion at the highs. So now, if you are a bear, what you're going to want to see is as we pull into these volume nodes, we start building them out. And you could see sellers were trying to build it out over here. All right, should show you all you need to know. Buyers will have a lot. Buyers will have to add a lot to hold. I don't think they will. Again, we got 37.5 points about on this up move from the buy zone. Obviously comes out to 18.75 a contract on the E-mini. You should only have a tiny amount of position left, or I commented here, or be all out of the position. Stop is in the money. What a fantastic day. So once your stop's in the money, it's all gravy. Who cares what happens? You're paid. Let your trade work. So what am I talking about when I say that this should tell you everything you need to know? So at this point, we're looking at a 4-hour chart, and you could see I fixed my time session. So this is how it should look. All right, what are we seeing here? We are seeing, on this up move up, we're seeing exhaustion at the highs. We're seeing a P-shaped distribution into a larger time frame moving average because we know we're downtrending. Obviously. So these higher time frame moving average, the more likely it is to be respected. We're seeing exhaustion into it and into other things that I spoke about, obviously, the point of control. So signs are there that if we start pulling below, this could get ugly unless, as I said, bulls will have to add a lot. All right. buyers are not going down without a fight. Look how much they're trying to build. So I really thought the bulls were done, but they definitely showed themselves to still be active. So this is where you're monitoring. If you didn't exit your position, you're still holding some. You want to see the signs that we spoke about for a potential next leg up. And if you're not seeing them, you could cut your trade in the money. Gonna step away a bit before I try to outstart my system. Stops are in place, letting the position do its thing. So this is something actually good to talk about for those who have continued watching. I believe it was today's Friday, so I think it was Wednesday. I have a system of me trailing my stop as I see what I would like. And I believe it was Wednesday, I tried to be cute and funny and didn't listen to the rules that I have in place, and my stop got hit where it should not have. So yeah, everyone I'm sure who trades knows how emotional trading could be. So sometimes when you're in a position how I was this morning, it's just better to step away. You're paid, as I said, who cares? Back at office, 3 ticks from my stop. We got a dip while I was away. My stop was at 38.60. I'm pretty sure I said that. And yeah, 3 ticks away. My stop placements are systematic too, and in the room I'll show people how I place my stops. Now it doesn't matter. I still ended up getting stopped. But if I was here, I would assume is a place that I definitely could have added and collected another 13-point move from this move. Just looking here, I don't know if it went higher, I don't remember. 12.04 now. Look how much buyers added. Not saying we necessarily get another squeeze. Momentum is against bulls right now. So just an update on the daily profile. We could see huge profiles, huge volume nodes, not profiles, I'm sorry, building out here. So it's important to keep an eye. And we could see exactly where market participants are using footprint. Interested to see the tape in this rectangle should tell us next move. We'll cover in video recap. So I will pull up the full picture. 1 second. All right. We could see where market participants are. What do I mean? If you can't see, we clearly have a buying imbalance right here. And as we come across, they're still active. We could see where sellers are. Obviously, we have sellers here, but they move down on the tape, and they're trying to hold this. So what's above here? All these seller stops, and what's going to be in our buy zone? All these buyer stops. And I said I was interested to see here. Now remember, my stop is at 38.60, so I was hoping that these buyers didn't get stopped. I was looking for a pull down into here, and this big volume node, I wanted to fill this little volume gap and then see if the buyers could move a bit up here. Now they didn't, and we see that on the tape. So let's go. This is the same thing we were just looking at, and this is inside the rectangle. So we could clearly see how buyers did try, but they got completely steamrolled. You're watching the delta, and yeah, they were just being overrun a lot. And now we pulled into the buy zone. We were running the stops that I was just talking about, and I warned people, if you're going to be, or trying to be a bull this session, be cognizant of the volume trapped above. You could see so much volume. Obviously, that is now underwater. And another, see, we ran these stops, and that gave us the fuel to go to the upside. Another 10-point move from this screenshot. $500 a contract, obviously. Tape was super clean as well. The TPO was saying that we were due for a pullback, but I didn't talk about it live on StockTwits just because of the volume above. This is a more risky trade to take, and not one that, if you're a newer trader, you should take. You should definitely take the less risky one. So why is this clean? We were pulling down. We saw our exhaustion closing above our midline of our zone, seeing that it's being respected, and we have a bid moving up. So I didn't take this, I just took that one trade. I was happy with it, but definitely a valid play here if you know what to look for. And that was it. I was just chit-chatting with some people on StockTwits. I hope you guys found this useful. If you want to learn all the tools and techniques that I use, shoot me an email if you want a spot in the room. I'm going to come out with a video on Wednesday that's going to cover everything that the room, like pricing, things like reviews, webinars, everything that I'm going to cover and what you could expect in the room for those interested. I will see you guys tomorrow in the next recap.